Hi, everybody, and welcome to Life Talk with Janice and Kelly. Today, we have a special guest that Kelly's going to introduce.
Yeah, so I'm excited to introduce Stacy Roush. She is an executive national vice president, independent consultant for Arbonne. And we have been talking in our videos about manifesting, and we're using the book, The Magic of Manifesting, going through the different techniques. And I would classify as a master manifester. And so we wanted you to share kind of your story and your motivation to start manifesting and the life you've created by doing that, if you don't mind sharing.
Thank you for, no, I'm excited to share, and I'm honored that you would ask me to, and I'm very grateful for your influence in my life. And I have not read that book yet, which I'm excited to read it. But I have had amazing experiences manifesting, and I have been called a master manifester by some of my mentors, and didn't really realize the gift and the ability that we all have within us, but most of us don't know. Right. So I actually stumbled upon doing it when I was younger. I was in my 20s. I'm 48 now. So I was in my 20s, and it started with the scripture. I grew up in a Christian environment and, church. And my favorite scripture growing up was in Ephesians 3:20. And it said that God's able to do exceedingly and abundantly above all we can ask, think, or imagine. And so I put that scripture on my wall, and I started imagining, like, this is how it started. And I started imagining myself becoming successful in my Arbonne business, imagining myself earning the white Mercedes Benz the company had. And I don't know if anyone's ever been familiar with the Enneagram, but I've since learned about the Enneagram, and I'm a 4. So I'm a dreamer. And I have really high expectations for like Tuesdays, it's just so I get disappointed if things aren't like wow, and if people aren't like I want everyone to feel happy. I want to feel happy, and with how I grew up, behavior was real important. So I learned to conform to like be whatever I needed to be to keep the people happy. And so when I stumbled upon manifesting in that scripture, I actually wasn't happy. Okay. I was not living the dream. I was poor, no college degree. And growing up in a religious home has a lot of benefits, but it also has a ton of drawbacks. So I was like trying to maneuver understanding and healing and judgmentalism and all this stuff and the expectations. And so it was by pure accident that scripture, but I started doing that at night and every night. Well, since then, I've deconstructed quite a bit from my upbringing and kind of tried to find the scientific side of all this, because it is science and it does go hand in hand. And whatever religion people have, whether it be like I grew up or agnostic or Buddhist or anything, this science works for everybody. And what I did was I focused on what I did want in life instead of my disappointments and my unmet expectations. And I would just dream. I would go to sleep every night thinking about, what do I want? What do I want it to look like? What's it going to taste and feel like? I was just imagining. I was just doing what that little scripture said to do. But what I was doing was I was putting my thoughts out there. And our thoughts, when they're tied to emotion, this is the secret. This is the key. Not just, oh, I wish this would happen, or, oh, I want to lose 30 pounds. But like, what's it going to feel like? What am I going to wear when I lose 30 pounds? Like, whatever you're manifesting for, what's it going to feel like when I have that Mercedes Benz in my garage that I, earned with my business? Like all these kind of thoughts. You want to stay in the thought and you want to hold it. And I've since also listened to Dr. Joe Dispenza. I love him. And there's actually a really short YouTube video you can Google, and it's called Unlimited Shopping Spree with Dr. Joe Dispenza. And it's when his daughter manifested an unlimited shopping spree. It's really, really short, but it's the same thing in a nutshell. And the girl really did manifest an unlimited shopping spree at her favorite store. And I loved it because it makes it so brief and short, but it can work for anything. It worked for my green sofa in my living room. It worked for the man that I'm married to now. It worked for me living here in Florida, escaping from a really unhealthy situation in Oklahoma. It worked for me building a business with no college degree, no influence, not a lot going for me, and built a beautiful business that I'm still benefiting from. That's lasted 25 years now. So that's how I got into it. And now I do it intentionally. And there's a couple different techniques I do. And I will tell you, I get casual, just like everybody else with anything.
I like that.
And I forget the ability that I have. I get distracted with life and my emotions get in the way and I get tired. But I first was introduced to actually what I'm about to show you, the written part of it, in 2012. And I had succeeded in my business. I believed in the power of positive thinking. I believed in a dream board and having your vision board and writing your goals down, all the stuff that we know. But there's a step further, and that was the emotion being tied to it. Mm-hmm. And so in 2011, our family went through the greatest tragedy. My sister had a baby that was born with a heart defect, and he passed after being with us for 96 days. And we were in a dark place, and I was afraid I was going to lose my sister. As you know, anyone that loses a child, there's just nothing I can even fathom worse. And so I was in a dark place, but I was trying to keep going because I wanted her to keep going. And I was in an unhealthy marriage, and my business was in a lull at that time. And I had a home that I had bought in 2006 that I wanted to sell. I had it on the market for 5 years, but remember the housing market crashed and all that. And so I was losing money there, and it was bad. It was a bad time. Business, family, marriage, health. I was unhealthy. And so I found a friend of a friend who I talked to, and she said, "Stacy, has anyone ever showed you how to intentionally manifest and use a gratitude journal?" And I was like, "No, what is that?" And she said, "Well, I'm going to show you." And she told me to get a piece of paper and draw a line down the middle of it, and then draw a line at the top. And that's what I did. So I drew a line down the middle and a line at the top. And on one side, I put, "I am responsible for." And then on the next side, you put, I don't care if you put God, universe, powers that be, love, my creator, whatever. Universe is responsible for.
Okay.
And this is something I still do to this day, because I'm going to tell you what happened when I learned how to do it. So at that time, I'm just going to start with the first 3 things that I manifested after learning how to do this little trick. I am responsible for it. Well, I can love my sister. That's all I can do. I can't have a baby for her. I tried. I can't bring her baby back. I can't do anything. I can just love her. And so universe, God, powers that be. Sorry, makes me emotional still. You're responsible to bring my sister a healthy baby boy.
Okay.
And that's all I could do. And then trust it. The next thing I wrote down was I am responsible to show my $1 million house that had been on the market for 5 years that nobody wanted to buy for more than I owed. Like, I needed a miracle there because financially I was house poor. And then the third thing I needed was my business to grow. So I am responsible to share our bond and love people. And the universe is responsible to bring me a business builder that goes all the way to the top. And so once you write it down, the universe can read. It has it. So this is where the biggest, let's type for first with the biggest step. It's surrendering it and then the emotion tied to it. So this is where you surrender it and you let the universe have it. There is so much freedom in surrender. Mm-hmm. And as you surrender it, you don't take back the worry and the anxiety and the what if and the fear and the doubt and the unbelief and all the reasons why it's not going to work. You let that all go. And you go into my favorite word, gratitude. And I always say all the time, gratitude is my magic power because it is. And as an Enneagram 4, I go to envy a lot. Not like I want your beautiful hair, but I go to, why isn't my hair as beautiful as hers? What's wrong with me? That's how I deal with the envy that my personality carries with it a lot. So instead I'm like, well, I'm just grateful for the hair I got. I'm grateful, like, and I use gratitude and start finding the gifts in things. Mm-hmm. And even like the worst circumstances that happened, like when we lost my nephew, I knew that if we looked for it, we would find a gift in that. Mm-hmm. Even though it was the most horrific pain, still is really painful, and it's been 11 years. But the gifts that have come from it. So that's what happens with gratitude. It changes your perspective, but then it also like magnifies what you're believing for. So when you have gratitude in faith and have the emotion as if what you're believing for has already happened, mm-hmm. that's the magic. And then holding that emotion. Dr. Joe Dispenza says you want to hold it for, I think, 78 seconds. This is what, 72 or 78 seconds. So here's where the challenge lies. It's like having the saddest song playing and someone tell you to start, tap dancing like, you're doing a happy jig. But you're hearing this sad music in your head and you're heavy and you're sad. Nope, we're going to dance and we're going to believe and we're going to. So it's a balance of letting yourself process whatever struggle you're having in your life. Like I was still sad that my nephew was gone and my sister was devastated and her husband was devastated. And, I was sad, but I had this hope that there could be healing. We couldn't replace him, but could we have joy again? Could we laugh again? Could we love again? And so I was believing for her to have a healthy baby boy. I wrote down, I'm responsible for, to show the house. Universe, you're responsible to bring a buyer that offers more than I owe on this house during a horrific economic recession in the housing industry. And then the other thing, a business builder. God, you're responsible to bring me a business builder that goes all the way to the top. So let me tell you what happens after I do this, okay? And every time I wanted to worry about it, and then I put Ephesians 3:20, because I wanted to just put, the lady didn't tell me to do that, but I was like, well, I know that one worked before, so we're just going to add some fuel to the fire, And so I'd be like, okay, universe, I've believed this before, and you did it. Top it, like show off for me. Show off that I can connect with you. Show off that this is real. And so every time I wanted to worry, I would stop and I would want to take it back, and I would just, nope. The universe has this. I don't have to worry about it. And I am so grateful my sister has a healthy baby boy. I am so grateful that my house has sold for more than I owe. I am so grateful that I have a business builder that goes all the way to the top. 3 weeks. 3 weeks after doing this, I get a phone call from Eli, my nephew that was 9 at the time. Aunt Stacy, my mama has a baby in her tummy.
Oh.
What? Now, I didn't make this happen. Okay. Was nothing. She had a margarita and a really great husband. And okay. But you can help people by your energy and your love. You can help. It's almost like changing timelines. You know what I mean? It's almost like you can help speed up the manifestation. And I loved my sister that much. Like, to this day, I'm sorry, I get emotional. There is no prayer I have ever prayed harder than please give her a healthy baby boy. And remember, we played with Ephesians 3:20 after that. Well, the little boy's name is Tate. He's 9 now. And his Tate means joy. And he literally has restored so much joy to our family. And then 2 years later, she was in Colorado on a family vacation and finds out she's pregnant after that one. And that kid's name is Miles. So not 1, but 2 healthy baby boys. That's my Ephesians 3:20. That's why every time I'm with Miles, I'm like, oh, I know that what we think about, we bring about. And that's a scripture that I want to think about and bring about, you know? And so anyways, that was that miracle. Then the next thing was for the house. Well, I had a showing 2 weeks after surrendering this and just going into gratitude. And they did not buy the house then. They came and looked at it a whole bunch of times. But again, I was still in that unhealthy marriage. And I knew I was supposed to leave it. But I didn't quite have the guts to do it. So it took me about 90 more days of counseling and meditation and finding my peace because of how I was brought up in religion. Could I get a divorce and all of that junk that came along with that? And finally, on March 1st, so this was 2 months later, I guess, I filed for divorce. And the very next day I get a phone call from the realtor. Those people that had looked at the house back in January were ready to buy for more than I owed, but not too much because I had to pay my ex-husband, you know? So anyways, the universe even knows those kind of details. So,
Right.
And that ended up, I didn't like it at the time, but looking back now, it saved me a lot of pain. So, so there was that happened. And then that was the same month that I launched a girl named Bethany in my business. And 2 years later, she earned an award in the company called the Parade of Champions. She was the #1 consultant in growth in the entire company of over 100,000 consultants. And she had made it to the top income earning position with Arbonne. So that was my first time writing 3 manifestations down. Now, since then, I still use the journal sometimes, but sometimes I skip the I am responsible for part and just surrender it and visualize it as if it's already done and go into gratitude. And, but for instance, when I met my husband, Troy, I had a connection and I liked him from like somewhere deep inside my sternum. I don't know. There was he was like a magnet to me. And I knew in my knower that I was crazy about this guy and he was different. But, you know, he was a farmer. He lived 12 hours away. This wasn't practical. I'm not a farm girl. And he even said, there's no possible way this could ever work out, but I got to get to know you. And I was like, fine, you seem interesting, whatever. Well, after getting to know him, I was like, why do I miss this guy? And I met him one time. And why? What is this? So it was impossible. It was impossible. It was not, he told me to go on 50 dates with other people. He was not interested. Well, he was interested, but it wasn't going to work. And so I would manifest this. I didn't want to be manipulative. I didn't want to try and control him. I didn't want to be witchcraft kind of stuff, you know, trying to control someone and manipulate them. Then I'll be like, I am so grateful that Troy Roush or someone better than Troy Roush, if you have someone better for me, is crazy in love with me, marries me, and is faithful to me till the day I die. And that became my manifestation. It was like, And I didn't hardly ever talk to him, but there was something that felt that way. And sure enough, it took a year of us being, pen pals. And then we dated for a year and then got married, and we've been married for almost 5 years. And I love him still from, he's a human and he messes up. He's a guy like all of them, but there's just something different there. And so I've learned to kind of follow my energy and follow that intuition and trust it a little bit more. And then when things get hard and I struggle and I forget that I have this ability, that we all have this ability, I'm pretty upset over something. I let it get too far down the negative trail. And then I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I can course correct this. I can change this. I just have to trust and get in the right vibe. And